بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Welcome back to yet again, I believe this is going to be episode 10, so we're in double digits of Behind the Minbar, inshallah. I am joined today by Samahat al-Sayyid Mohammed Hassan Alsheraa, who is known online as Instahlulbayt. Assalamu alaikum Sayyidina. How are
Alaikum
you?
assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, bkhair.
Great.
How have your majalis been? You've just wrapped up tonight at the ACIC with the Afghan Youth Committee, ACE. How has that been? It's been 10 nights, I believe.
Alhamdulillah, it's been phenomenal. The community here is very warm and sweet and generous. And the Afghan community is known to be very hospitable and very humble at the same time. But the greater GTA area always continues to bring communities, whether they're from the Afghan background, the Iraqi background. They always set the bar very high. So I was very happy to have spent my Ashra at the Afghan Youth Committee.
Alhamdulillah, it's been an honor to have you nearby, just down the street. Of course, the Afghan Center, there are more than just our neighbors. There are brothers. We collaborate often and frequently. We have a lot of friends that visit between the two centers.
Of course, Al-Rasool has a special place in my heart. I don't know if I share this with you. My first outside of Michigan Majlis or program was at Al-Rasool Center. When I was 16 years old,
I remember.
I had the honor of being invited here for Shahr Ramadan at Al-Rasool. So if I was 16 years old, I don't know how long that was. That shows you how old I am. But over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember I had to get my mother's permission to cross the border from Michigan into Canada. And it was this was my debut of being privileged to speak in other communities outside of what I'm familiar with. So this place also has a special room in my heart.
Alhamdulillah. Now you're back after all this time.
Nah, I've been back before.
You've come a few times.
There's
here
no
and
place like the first place. So
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah wa shukr. It's an honor to have you here, of course.
Honor's mine.
And so just wanted to ask you, you've seen a lot of the programs here. You've joined us for a Q&A here. You've seen the Afghan Center. There's been programs at JCC. There's been big programs. Toronto, I think, mashallah, you joined the Nainawa conference, of course. Toronto has been on the map this year for Muharram. I think we're up there, one of the big contenders, top cities for Muharram. But I just wanted to get your evaluation of the community here as a whole. How did you find Toronto as a big Shia city?
It's definitely a very rich area with diversity, and there's too much to do in one time. You can't get it all done in 10 nights. Every other day, these invitations were coming, and it was just overwhelming, and you just can't do it. Naturally, in Muharram, your nights and days are flipped. Sleep schedule is not the same anymore. So you have to work with what you have. And we tried our best to pull all-nighters just to keep up with like house majalis, followed by a program, followed by even this podcast.
Yeah.
And you do it because it's the opportunities that you'll look back and think those were wonderful moments and memories. In Toronto, they really have put themselves on the map, just the Shia community in general. I love looking and seeing that, yes, we might have a center known for its ethnic identity. You could say this is the Khoja Center, an Iraqi center. Some will even have the name out there, Iranian Islamic Center, Afghan, whatever center.
Yep.
But you'll see that they'll come together from all parts and continue to support one another, despite even some of these arbitrary lines that are drawn. So I really love it. The food scene is really good here. It's kind of competing with Dearborn as well. So that's very special. I can't wait to see Shahr Ramadan here one day. But overall, yeah, it's been very beautiful, and I'm very impressed that in a small area relative to like other places in the world, you can find multiple programs happening. You mentioned Afghan Youth is right across the corner.
Just down the street.
Here, you have, by connection, 2 other additional centers.
Yep.
There's always something going on, and that's a wonderful archetype that shows you can have multiple places but still learn to live in harmony, and that's very beautiful.
Alhamdulillah, shukr. And yeah, of course, the food scene in Toronto. I think we are punch for punch with Dearborn. Sometimes, frankly, I come
If
to
it's punch
Dearborn.
for punch, we get the knockout. I'm being honest with you. You're getting up there. What we don't have is like the spicy cuisines. We don't really have.
I think in
much of
raw
that.
diversity, Toronto is more diverse. in terms of the type of food options. Honestly,
that can be debated, but
you guys are more just like Arab and American food. Like I
is there
think
anything
so.
better than that?
No, but there's different things you can try. واحد يعني if you stay eating the same food all the time, you
Sure.
get bored. يصير ملل.
Okay.
Sorry, this is something I'm very passionate about.
As you could tell,
Whoa.
we are passionate about it.
Yes, we are passionate about it. I'm getting shots from the
No,
Sayyid
Habibi,
over
no,
here.
the opposite. No, nonetheless.
Zain, Sayyidna, you have one of the largest Shia Instagram accounts. I don't think I'm overestimating by saying that. Like apart from the atabat, but like something that's not an ataba or like an official.
You mean
thing.
like Western English Shia?
Western English Shia accounts? I think you are at the top. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but you're up there, yani, with one of the biggest.
I hope so.
One of the biggest Shia Instagram accounts. What's the story and what's the goal? So let's ask first, what's the story behind Instahlulbayt, and then we can talk about what's the goal of
I
that
don't know,
account?
man. The story was a guy living in the Highlands of Scotland by the name of Mustafa Safar reaches out to me on Facebook one day saying, I like your stuff. I'd love you to come online one day on my platform. Let's do a live stream together. And I said, yeah, sure, let's see it. Back then it was maybe sub 1,000 followers or whatever. And I go on and I love the vision. And I love where he's going with this. And I think social media is a tool. Definitely, we've heard so many lectures, beware of the dangers, of the distractions, of the temptations. But at the same time, the same fire that I can use to cook my food with, I can also burn my house. But at the same time, I could use that. It depends on how you use it. So I saw that, segueing to the vision, I felt that there was a lot of demand, but very little supply in the world of marketing Islam Ahlul Bayt in the Western front. You said clearly the Arab world with the atabat and pages of that sort, they're doing very well, right? Millions. And I know people might assume, why do you care so much about the numbers? In the world today, you need to leave a mark and influence. If youth will follow celebrities and influencers because they have that much influence, then why not influence them before positive things? So we need to have that going. Not a celebrity, but let's make Ahlul Bayt our celebrities. And so I saw this vacancy in presenting the teachings, the wisdoms, the principles, the lessons of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt in an English, but this is a big one, aesthetically appealing, easy to digest manner. Yeah, you see things like Imam Ali once said, verily the brethren are like thee of thy hand, or something to that effect.
No one understands it.
Verily, surely. Honestly, you needed to, in the world today, if you're going to translate, go ahead and translate it, but make it understandable, readable, able to comprehend. Why do they say these wonderful pearls of wisdom, if not for us to understand and appreciate and digest and reflect? So let's exactly do that. So we would take these, use our creative license, but retaining as much of the original meaning and depth as possible. So he was really good, my dear brother, shout out to him, Mustafa Safar, in making footage, content, reels, things like that. I served like a role of research and providing some of the content from the world of hadith, dua, and go online with like live streaming. And then it became something very nice. We noticed, like I said, demand, little supply. Now we started giving the supply.
Yeah.
This is, by the way, I encourage everyone, make pages. What's the worst that can happen? It just doesn't do good. That's okay. For like the first good couple years, I mean, Instahlulbayt Bayt, we're now at 140,000.
140,000 followers.
You said it first, not me. No, I think I may have said it first, but inshallah, Allah continues to bless.
With over 2,800 posts, by the way.
That's, see, there's the effort. So it took like a good 600 until we probably hit our like 1,000. And it's not for me. It was, for the longest time, I wasn't even a face on it. It was just let's help push some of the research out there, verify some of the information. You see fake ahadith. And so I may have came with that sort of background, and Mustafa with the tech. Combine these two, it's deadly.
And now there's a team. There's a team behind it.
And now we have to bring admins now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
shout out to Brother Ali Lakhani, of course. So more of the tech things, the replying back to the messages. I can't keep up to it with it. We might get about 17 messages a day. And they're legit messages, not taking into consideration, share this, whatever, things like that. Just spam and advertisement. No, just 16 or 15 on average, I think, last I checked. And I can't keep up with that personally. So I'm so honored and happy that we have this team. Hopefully it grows into something more successful. Hopefully, and it has, can be used as inspiration for other people to make their own platforms. And hopefully we can see Behind the Maghrib have a wonderful, strong, as it does,
Behind the Maghrib, eh? Good one.
Hopefully, as well, we could see Behind the Minbar, inshallah ta'ala, occupy a position as such, where it's now a platform, not just a podcast, that can cater to this area where there is so little demand. Inshallah, will turn into the supply.
Inshallah. And you're also a funny guy, Sayyid. I have to say, you do have a humorous personality.
If I do say so myself.
And Instahlulbayt has some good, as they say, they got dank memes. They got funny Shia memes.
Oh yeah.
So
which one's your favorite?
I can't name one off the top of my head.
Just pick.
But there is the one that I like, the one that where
Mr. Bean?
when it's Eid al-Ghadir and you take the speaker and then it just plays an audio of
Okay, yeah.
Ali, Ali,
Yeah. It's like, how did you know I was Shia?
Yeah.
And then you have Michael from The Office taking a stereo, putting it right up into the vent, and he's just singing.
Exactly.
Ali,
I like that one.
Yeah. We have a few Mr. Bean ones that just went big. I mean, because people like Mr. Bean. And yeah, there's no shame in imploring.
Then who's coming up with the memes though?
A lot of them are me. I'll be honest. A lot of them, in the sense, don't get approved. Sometimes we get this idea. Would this be funny? At the same time, you have to keep in mind, for example,
to keep up
the sanctity of the nature of these jokes. Because if you notice, they have like an Islamic twist to them.
Yeah.
How far can you go? Humor is part of our life. There are elements of humor that exist in Islam as well, where it's befitting. And these things that we have, I think we may have shared Modine a couple times.
Yeah.
When you propose to her father for the first time, and he wants to insist that the mosque, he's addicted to it. Salah, he hasn't missed since he was 14.
I'm on a mad ting right
but
now.
Mecca, he's been 4 times, and of course his deen.
He's on a mad ting right now.
He's on a mad thing right now. Yeah, that one is really.
I like that one too.
Yeah. So alhamdulillah wa shukr. You combine these. People have the wrong idea that Islam, to be and occupy this identity, you must be boring. When you've marketed Islam for the longest time as you have to be an old man with a long beard and slow, we have nothing against old men, long beards, and slow. But in the 21st century today, you will need to know your people and appeal to them, not step beyond the boundaries of Sharia. I'm going to stay here, but if Allah has allowed for this creativity, this drive, this unique perspective, you could serve Allah in many other ways than just being part of a facility that is only exclusive, like the masjid, that, for example, is like a Husayniyya. There are worlds in the tech space, in the world of social media, in social circles. You could be the biggest servant to Sahib al-Zaman as a lawyer, the biggest servant to Sahib al-Zaman as a dentist, the biggest servant to Sahib al-Zaman as an engineer. Imam Mahdi alayhi salam will definitely benefit from these in his global mission of justice. Social media, I have very good reason to believe that this will also be an asset in that world, and hopefully we can pave the way, inshallah ta'ala, with your presence as well.
Allah khalikum. I'd like to think also we do have a little bit of a presence on social media. We grew a bit, and just this podcast, like, it's not very common for a center to have a podcast, or at least it's not the most common. It's picking up now. But yeah, this is just one way of, just getting out of the standard regular program. You sit in a hall and you just listen. While that's important, you gotta sometimes diversify, shake things up.
And we need to upgrade.
Change.
We need to progress.
Upgrade your tech, upgrade your teams to have
upgrade
knowledge.
Your pages, your resources. Like you said, the team. Bring people that actually know what they're doing.
Ahsant. Ahsant.
Mustafa has a background in soccer, but at the same time, he's a specialist in software. My brother Ali Khani is an engineer as well, and I might be someone who has some knowledge in literature. These are all resources that are essential, man, But that doesn't mean if you don't have resources that you can't, take the first step. You could have your own taste, creativity, style, and theme.
And a lot of these skills are also very self-taught, by the way. Our whole team is self-taught.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All of these things, it's like, it doesn't take a genius to find a certain joke funny.
Yeah.
And if you have that taste, as you insisted that I do, and I'm so thankful for that,
No,
then utilize
at
it.
your service.
Everything can be, thank you, astaghfirullah, everything could be used for the service of Ahlul Bayt, even as unconventional as possible. You know, I have to think of I have to use this reference. You know, when you talk about converting and people speak of their stories, it usually is, you know, I was finding my identity, God came into my life, I heard a particular lecture, the Quran inspired me. In the Quran, there's a moment where this impressive person embraces Islam, but in the most unconventional way possible. You know the story of Sulaiman and the queen of Sheba.
Yep.
She enters upon him in the palace. قِيلَ لَهَا ادْخُلِ الصَّرْحِ. He tells her, enter the palace, my kingdom, Sulaiman. And when she enters, حَسِبَتْهُ لُجَّةً. When she enters, she sees that the water beneath her is actually water and not water that is beneath glass and not just water exposed. She thought it was water, so she فَكَشَفَتْ عَنْ سَاقِيَ. She exposed her heels, lifting that dress, didn't want to get her dress wet. But it turned out that the water was beneath a fine surface of glass designed in that manner. She saw that and she says, I have now embraced the Lord of Sulaiman because of the palace of Sulaiman can deceive the queen of Sheba. Then what about the Lord of Sulaiman? Allah demonstrates that this is the most unconventional way you can find him, but you found him in that way. She didn't hear the Quran necessarily. She didn't get preached. She just sees this and she's like, I was dumbfounded. You know what? It's enough for me to be convinced and compelled. Today, you know, there are ways people have their journeys, and it doesn't need to be from the standard typical way. It could be from these manners where people can become astonished, surprised, entertained, that drive that brings them closer. And in a more melancholious note, when we see these tragedies that we hear on the news with Palestine and others, there's something so bitter about that for obvious reasons, but you notice that there's also a wave of introspection. Muslims, why are they victimized? And how come in the world of disaster, it's certain groups of Muslims, predominantly those that subscribe to the worldview of Ahlul Bayt, that are at the forefront, which has led to a emergence of many embracing the worldview of Ahlul Bayt. I've seen on Twitter many examples of people saying, on this day I became Shia. Today I have embraced the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib because it's through this principle I've seen people rise, not tolerating the oppression that's happening. It's only them. They put actions into their words. So it's like, here's an unexpected way to embrace Allah. Here's another unexpected way to embrace Allah. Why not through social media? I think that's one of the wonderful ways to do so, as unexpected as it could be at times.
Ahsantum. And you just mentioned, just to pick up on something you said, you're speaking about Palestine, Palestine in the media, and also how there are people that come to the path of Ahlul Bayt. Now, there's a conversation that was kind of in the news recently, on Instagram, online, not in the news, but in the Shia communities, Shia circles. And it's a discussion about Palestine and Karbala and the parallels that can be drawn between them. Of course, there are parallels. We cannot deny that, parallels exist between the tragedy of Karbala and Palestine. Not to necessarily, I'm not saying that they should be compared constantly or that they shouldn't be. Just that these parallels exist. Just for if you're analyzing, child is killed here, a child is killed here. A tragedy occurred here, a tragedy occurred here. And parallels can be drawn between any aspect of life and any moment in history and any moment currently. That's just something ordinary. And the clip that went around was someone who said, do not compare Karbala with Gaza because Gaza has no Hussein. And that is what separates and elevates Karbala above any other tragedy in history. There have been loads of genocides, killings, mass murders, school shootings, whatever. But there's no Hussein, there's no figure like that for Gaza. So I just wanted to pick your brain a bit on this because it is something that's online. And I guess we are going to be another clip that's online talking about this. But there's no issue with that.
Not at all. Why is there issue in dialogue? And I think everyone's entitled to their opinion and they have their right to share their point of view and perspective. And this is the nature of human beings. You will not be able to convince every single of the 8 billion that walk across this life of your opinion. And you will find people that will embrace that as well. In regards to the events of Karbala and in contemporary circumstances, common sense dictates, obviously. La yom ka yomuka. That is not a discussion that needs to be held.
Yeah.
Obviously, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, his tragedy, there is nothing like that without a shadow of doubt.
These are from the words of Imam al-Hassan.
Imam
alayhi
al-Hassan says that.
Yeah.
However, we take, as you said, the parallels in if I see a minority here being oppressed by a majority because of their principles and what they stand up for, why not charge myself with the inspiration of Karbala, use that, and try to make a difference?
Yeah.
I don't need to be reminded, for example, just keep in mind nothing is like the events of Karbala. That's a common sense, you know. And
Yeah.
common sense may not be so common these days. That's totally fine. So reminders are important. فَذَكَّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى, as the Quran says, absolutely. But in the world today, I think, like the wise saying goes, you know, every day is Ashura is indicative of every day is actually not Yawm al-Ashur, for goodness sake.
Of course.
However, every day I should live my life how Imam al-Hussein unwaveringly never tolerated injustice. Let me make sure that these things don't repeat in my life as well, where if I see injustice, I will stand up and say, hey, hat min al-dhillah. That's not going to be
Frankly, if we don't learn any lessons like, hey, Hatman Adillah from Karbala, what is really the point of the stand? And we make an effort to say we are Shia.
it just turns into culture.
And we attend these majalis. Exactly. It just becomes a culture thing we do every year for 60 days or 69 days. We commemorate, you know, these majalis and everything. Then we just go back to the way we were.
I think you're right. Imam al-Hussein, alayhi salam, of course, he transcends time. And so his message is ongoing. It's not cultural.
It's universal.
It's universal. It's transcendental. So it's universal at every single time. And who's to say Imam Hussein is not in Gaza, is not in Lebanon, is not in Junub Lebanon, particularly in Iraq, in Kabul? I think Imam al-Hussein's son, Imam al-Mahdi, is always with us. And if he's in Hajj every single year, as the hadith says, he's not with the most oppressed that there were and are and will continue. He will be by their side, and he remains standing, unwavering, bringing inspiration, motivation, reminding that if you think it becomes difficult and complicated, an Imam is with you. Imam al-Mahdi exists, and he is alive. So no, Imam al-Mahdi is where we are, and he is there. He is Sahib al-Asr and Zaman as well.
No.
Given that, taking the lessons of Karbala and looking at the tragedies of Gaza and Rafah, West Bank, I can't but see and get inspired to go change because of how inspired I was with the events of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. I think we have to also be fair. I believe when people express their thoughts, they're not here to be nefarious or malicious or malign and trying to belittle a significant tragedy by saying, look, just because I may not necessarily see this element here, this means it is the most insignificant thing ever. It's the most significant genocide happening today. And of course, nothing remains like Karbala. But is this necessarily useful in these circumstances? Is this going to progress our time and our ethos as Shia on the world today? There may be bigger priorities to focus on as opposed to sharing reminders that, hey, an event may not necessarily be as important because an Imam Ma'soom is not there. Well, that's common sense at the end of the day. Imam al-Mahdi is the most important thing to us. Imam al-Hussein is the most important thing to us. And what hurts them hurts me. And the point is, though, when they got hurt, am I just going to mourn on their pains in their moments? Or when I see something similar or in similitude to a certain degree, I won't tolerate it because I took inspiration from my masters here. So it can be just a matter of semantics. And we have husn al-dhan with every person, whether they antagonize, whether they support, whether they condemn, whether they condone. At the end of the day, we're all lovers of Ahlul Bayt. And you are a human being. No one will say that the atrocities that happen are things that don't carry much weight because infallibility wasn't an element in this regard. No, every human being sees this and suffers and feels the pain. So I believe if sentiments like this are shared, then they come from a place of genuinity. Perhaps semantics may have been overstepped potentially, And we always assume the best, as our Ahlul Bayt and Imam al-Hussein would want us to do so.
Ahsantum. Jazakum Allah khair jaza. Just a final note I'd like to say is that at the end of the day, we see our brothers and sisters suffering. Like we must feel some kind of empathy.
Yeah, you're not a robot.
Exactly.
You have a heart.
And for some people to feel that kind of empathy, they make that comparison. They, like you said at the beginning, you said they charge themselves with the musibah of Abu Abdullah to do something now, and that's just a way of them expressing ultimately their love for Abu Abdullah. It's not just it's not. They don't have some nefarious idea either. They're not trying to purposely, make the two the same for some ultimate goal. The goal is to help the people.
Now, Haji Mahdi Habibi, do we then go after people because we may not have agreed with their point of view in expressing this dichotomy? Don't compare Karbala with Gaza. What would be, in your humble opinion, being on social media as well, what would be the most optimal approach to these sort of things? Because, by the way, people take these things personally as well.
Of course.
If I'm in Lebanon, I'm going to see this as a lot more contentious, unless otherwise being like in North America, Canada.
That's true.
So it's easy for me to say here. So how would one necessarily look at these cases and say, here I see a problem, and if someone may have addressed this problem in not the most befitting manner, what should be the result of the general public and community?
I mean, it's difficult to say exactly what should be the adequate response. I don't believe necessarily that we should cancel our brothers and sisters.
Cancel culture?
I'm not a fan of cancel culture. That's it. They said this, they're finished. And they digging up something against them or along those lines. I don't believe in that. And of course, there is a large political aspect to this, of course, where of course, if someone is, like you said, from Junub Lebanon, they have family in Junub Lebanon, which is also getting bombed. Right. It's not just about our brothers and sisters in Palestine who, just because they fold their hands when they pray, they're no longer our brothers and sisters.
That's irrelevant to us.
It's irrelevant, exactly. People have family in Junub Lebanon. People in Dearborn or here or wherever, they have family that are at war. So, of course, for them, they're emotionally charged, which can explain why they get angry at such a sentiment being expressed. But like you mentioned, I feel like we should give them husn al-dhan in the moment. Make 70 excuses,
or advise.
What's
wrong with that?
There's no issue in direct. I'm sure at this point everyone can reach out over social media to anyone. You can send a DM. Yeah, but your message, while I respect your opinion, I don't agree with it for kada reason, for this, that reason. And you can express how you feel to them without making it necessarily a big public display.
Listen, we live in contentious, heated times. Everyone's going to have an opinion.
Everyone's on edge too.
Remember when COVID happened? Everyone and their auntie had an opinion.
Or when the vaccine came out.
Don't do that. Don't take this. Do that, whatever. And so some will share this opinion, but it may rub off the wrong way. You don't necessarily even need to be from Junub Lebanon to sympathize, for example. Yeah. You don't necessarily need to be on the receiving end. But if you are, then your outlook is going to be a much more serious one as well. Of course. And at the end of the day, if people will throw in their opinions, there will be one or two that's not going to be the most optimal in expressing its initial intended purpose. But does that mean that we, for example, cancel culture because in times of contention where you expect people to share their thoughts, especially if they subscribe to the madrasa of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, I know what you mean deep down inside. My issue was a linguistics one. So where's the harm in spreading the message? As I would hope one day that if I tried to share my point of view and it was taken out of context because I could have shared it in a better way, I would really hope cancel culture doesn't come after me. If it does, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this be the way that I am brought to realization, but a more productive way is to listen, brother, I think this wasn't the most effective thing. But our issue is we're doing husn al-dhan. What if people come forth and say, la, I mean it when I say it this way? In that case, hey, welcome to the planet Earth. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I think we're bigger than that as Shia to then say, X, go away, you don't exist to me, you are inhumane, and you have no voice in my world any longer. You're entitled to that opinion as well. And we learn to move, and life moves on.
Ahsantum. Just to pick up on something you mentioned and lead us to our next area of discussion, you mentioned how semantics and someone may have an opinion and they may say something in the wrong way and context matters. To mention another clip that's been going viral.
This is just clip diagnosis.
Clip diagnosis. We're just breaking down clips. We're both on social media. Why not? We break down the things we've been seeing in the last couple of weeks.
There are a lot of clips on social media, so go easy on me.
But it's the ones that have been popular in the Shia community over the last couple of weeks.
That concern us in Western Shia spheres.
Yes. So there's one clip that's been, it's also on a podcast.
Nice.
And it was in the last couple of weeks. There's a brother that says,
I think I know.
The blank community is the best. They have the highest GDP.
The Khoja community.
The Khoja community.
Of course, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
You said it.
Khoja community is an excellent community.
Of course. JCC, of course, is the largest center, the largest mosque in North America. People they think it's still ICA in Dearborn, but in terms of
square... ICA is not a Khoja community.
No, I mean the largest mosque of any mosque.
I think ICA is bigger.
No, in square footage.
Really?
JCC is larger, believe it or not. They got the 3 floors. In raw square footage, if you pull it up, JCC is larger.
Nice.
Yeah. Maybe the I don't know, the way that they calculate is different. I don't know, but we don't need to get into building plans of centers and
one day when we construct our own, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah, it will be the largest.
God willing.
Inshallah. So in this clip, the brother says, the Khoja community is absolutely brilliant. We're the best of the Shias. Along those lines, I don't want to put words in the brother's mouth. I don't have it memorized word for word.
Sure.
And he talks about how they have the highest GDP. Just a quick note: GDP is used to calculate the gross domestic product of a country. It is never ever used to discuss like a person or a group of people's like worth. That you're looking for net worth or annual family income or something along those lines.
Okay.
I just had to throw that out there. I am someone very particular when it comes to semantics and the words used. So net worth, brother, is the one you're looking for, not GDP. Anyway, don't you think by someone coming out and just saying this outright, blatant, and if we're being fair, the podcast is called Khoja Connections. So it is for Khojas, because it's in the name. With all
like this podcast is for people that hang behind the minbar.
Yes, if you guys want to know a great place to just knock out, if you go behind the banner, behind our minbar, it's like dark there. Okay. No one can see you.
Sure.
Just saying.
Keep that in mind, inshallah.
Yeah, if you need to take a nap where no one sees you, behind the minbar is the place to go.
Oh, okay. I see the inspiration now.
Yes. Not that I am taking a nap here. Anyway, for this episode, for this clip that has taken traction. First, I just want to get your general thoughts on it.
Sure.
And if you think, number one, it was just maybe he had a different intention, like he meant something different, it just came out wrong. Because the reaction to it was a bit like, yo, what's going on here? But then on the other side, there's some people that are like, oh, anyone who has an issue with this is just jealous. So it's definitely been another source of conflict between Shias. At the end of the day, we're all under the flag of the Qa'im, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So just let us know I'm sure you've seen this clip, correct?
Yeah. I know which one. I'm familiar with what you're talking about. I may have also reshared it with a few of my thoughts underneath as well. My sentiments are quite obvious. The Khoja community is absolutely one of the greatest communities that the Shia world has ever seen.
Of course.
The likes and the pioneers such as Doji Jamal and who came through the struggles and hurdles, the pioneers going from Gujarat, India, from there to the mainland, Zanzibar, Tanzania. That struggle is truly impressive, and their forbearance and fortitude is
just a side
remarkable.
Note, at JCC they have a library called the Mullah Asghar
as well
Resource Center.
Mullah Asghar.
And in the library on the wall they have this amazing mural.
The journey of how
outlines the journey.
Yeah.
I find that really cool.
A good work as well for those that are interested more about this is the endangered species by the marhum late grandfather of my dear friend Sheikh Fayyad Ja'far. In any case, like we said, everyone's entitled to their opinion and they are absolutely free to share. And the man may have said, like, listen, I think, and I could be wrong, that we are the number one community. And then, number one in what sense, though? Because we have the highest, I think, GDP.
GDP. He meant net worth.
We of course, encourage education. And I think, yeah, you are the number one if you encourage education, knowledge, wisdom. At the end of the day, Ahlul-Bayt, they're not just flesh and blood. They're education, knowledge, wisdom, principles, lessons that we use, the Quran, etc. So if these are the reasons in that regard, those are great reasons. But I take one word out from this. Number one, because of finances, shouldn't it be why we label a community or any community as number one? The Hazara community, the Iraqi community may not have been as privileged to come from a world initially, and this is not to say the Khoja community came from a world that initially was the most financially strong at the beginning. But if you're looking at things like the diaspora of the Iraqis who came in 1981 political uprisings and 2003, we came with not much so that we can be the most rich community, and then we become the number one. Well, sorry, we're not as rich. Furthermore, have you not seen Khaliji Shias? MashaAllah, they're very well off. If we're talking riches and finances and GDP, they're quite up there.
Yeah.
The reason should be where my dear brother who was speaking, he had a point with the education part. You become a pioneering community, as the Khoja community is, by the way. It's a pioneering one. The journey is incredible. It's very special. By continuing this whole educational component. Education, spirituality, devotion, dedication to the lessons and principles of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, not tolerating injustice, oppression within the Khoja community, outside the Khoja community, being at the forefront of ensuring that we, yes, are proud of our identity. We're patriotic of where we came from initially. We are proud East Africans, but above all of these arbitrary descriptions that were laid out sociologically, we are proud Shia of the Ahlul Bayt.
Yeah.
I, as an Iraqi, and you, as an Iraqi, take inspiration from that. I wish, as Iraqis, we in our communities can take a leaf from their book as well. But I won't say, and I don't agree, that it's because they're the richest community. Have you seen Khaliji Shias? There's a competition there. The Qatari, Khaliji, Shia, Kuwaiti. If we're talking about riches, which is an irrelevant variable anyways.
It's not a marker of superiority.
Evangelical Christians are at the high forefront of net worth. But again, that's not the truth. It's not quantity. Obviously, you don't look for how much there is in order to determine the significance or legitimacy of something. We don't use that with the Holy Quran. The Prophet's name is mentioned only 4 times, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Musa is so much more. Fir'aun is so much more. If you're looking for quantity, you're in trouble.
Of course.
I'm looking at that community who, despite the arduous, tumultuous journey, despite the circumstances of leaving Kabul, of leaving Saddam's Iraq, of leaving Junub Lebanon, settling in foreign places and territories, establishing love and wilaya with another community, merging together, being patriotic, but at the same time, in your times of distress, I, as an Iraqi, will come to you as a Khoja. But I also hope that one day, that in times of distress, our Khoja brothers and sisters, as even having demonstrated before, they come to the aid of the Lebanese, and the Lebanese comes to the aid of the Iranian, and the Iranian comes to the aid of the Afghani. These arbitrary racist lines that
borders
are
that were drawn by Europeans.
Racist. Yeah. You here and you here. You fight for this patch of dirt, and you fight for that patch of dirt. It's not belittling patriotism and the identity of nationalism. You can be proud of your watan, but the priority is, when you get into Jannah, is that what was written on your passport was Khoja or Iraqi or Lebanese or Iranian, was the stamp of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. You'll have a passport, but you need the stamp of Imam Ali to enter Jannah. Like you need a stamp of entry. The stamp of Ali is the stamp into Jannah. He's not going to look for, I'm sorry, your passport doesn't say Iraqi on it. I'm sorry, your passport doesn't say Irani on it. Your passport doesn't say Khoja on it. I humbly excuse and apologize. Pakistani is not written on it. So sorry, forgive me, you can't enter Jannah. La. Where is the stamp of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam? I'm sorry, your net worth wasn't enough. You weren't the number one community. I'm sorry, you didn't demonstrate that you could be organized. Which, by the way, I think there's a point there. I think for a successful community to be that. It needs to be organized as well.
And the Khoja, they are extremely organized.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where we can take a leaf
They
from
are
their
like-
from their book as well.
If they tell a reciter, you got 4 minutes. If he's
Oh yeah, they're
four
on,
and a
they're-
half minutes,
They're on the
that's
dot.
it.
Oh, they're absolutely on the dot. And I think we could take lessons from that as well.
course.
But at the same exact time, a win for the Khoja is a win for the Iraqi. And a win for the
course.
Irani is definitely a win for the Afghani. When I see the Khoja succeed, I feel like, thank you, my brother, you succeeded
One of my
for me.
one of my
on
close
behalf.
friends in law school is Khoja brother who attends JCC, and we're
How happy are you when you see your brother get accepted into law school? You don't look at him and say, here's a Khoja man. It's like, my brother.
I
got
was so happy. I'm like, another Shia.
There you go.
Yeah.
My brother got accepted. I see an unapologetic, proud Muslim sister entering the world of politics and business with her hijab. Baba, who cares about her last name? Doji, Murji, Bayati, Khazraji. Who cares where they're from? Karimi. Who cares where they're ethnically based in? Our sister from our worldview is making us proud in the political sphere, making us proud in the social sphere. A win for the Lebanese is a win for the Irani, win for the Iranis, win for the African, win for the Africans, win for whatever. These arbitrary things, embrace them. Be proud of your identity. But don't say just because you didn't fall in this sphere, you can't be part of the number one community. That's preposterous to the highest degree.
And we don't forget that the best among you in the eyes of Allah are the most pious.
Ahsan.
And that's the most important thing to remember.
Of course.
Yeah,
Allah
Allah.
created you shu'uban, qaba'il, nations and tribes, men and women, best among them all, atqakum. And yes, there is so much taqwa in the Khoja world that I take inspiration from them, as there is in the Iraqi and all the others as well. Inshallah, we can all be one number one community collectively.
Inshallah.
And we're the community of Shi'at Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Ahsantum, inshallah. We ask Allah to grant us all hidayah, inshallah. and to be
Inshallah, ya
among
Allah.
the best of the Shia. I think we are going to wrap up the episode,
So
inshallah.
soon?
So soon, I know. We could go on, I think, for even longer, frankly.
Inshallah ta'ala. But we have some memes to catch up on.
We have some memes to catch up on. Instahlulbayt, you know, they're cranking out the Shia memes.
And during the times of Muharram and
They're not now, of course.
Yeah, no, we have a strict policy on these things.
Ahsantum.
You know, we take into obviously that to consideration. So if you're expecting memes during Muharram, Safar, wait until Rabi' al-Awwal. You're gonna find some nice ones coming up. But
course-
let's learn from the wonderful lessons during these times of the legacy of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. Inshallah, you can definitely
Inshallah.
expect to see that.
Yeah, and you also have a policy to follow people like myself and then unfollow them right away, like within 12 hours.
Listen, I'm one of 3 admins,
I
so if I
appreciate it.
add you, maybe someone else might be like, "Who was this?"
Ali
accident?"
Lakhani. $10, it was him.
No comment.
It was definitely him.
No comment, brother.
Ali, you unfollowed me on your personal too. I'm just putting that out there. We next time I come to Dearborn, we need to have a chat.
Inshallah ta'ala. I hope you can come by one day and we'll have that chat.
Yeah,
Maybe
we'll
we'll
have
bring
that.
you on board as one of the admins. Does that sound? Or you want to be a free man and not restricted?
Not restricted. I'm only associated with Al-Rasool.
Khalas, inshallah. We're all inshallah associated with Al-Rasool al-Akram sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
Al-A'zam.
Al-A'zam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala
That's twice now.
Muhammad. What? Al-Akram. What's wrong with
That's
that?
true. Okay. Well, yalla, we'll wrap it up. Zain Sayyidina, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate having you here, of course, in the studio, on the set, and of course in Toronto as a whole, on behalf of the Toronto community who have learned so much from you over the past 10 nights at the Afghan Center, whether it was here at the Q&A. We're inshallah we'll be honored with your attendance and
The honor is mine.
with your presence here.
Thank you
soon
so
again,
much. Thank you so
inshallah.
much. The honor is mine. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait. This was long overdue, and I can't wait to do it again, inshallah ta'ala, in the near
Inshallah.
future. Best of luck in all your hard work. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, and I can't wait to see, inshallah, more of that wonderful work in the world of
Thank you
social
so
media
much.
by you as
Please
well.
keep us in your da'at.
Likewise, Habibi. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.